Born and raised in Guatemala, I had never been able to explore my own country. Left and moved to the US, and for the first time I came back by myself and explored the many beautiful places it has to offer. I've been feeling stuck back at home as if I hit a dead end, and in return I booked my flight to Guatemala and spent these 2 amazing weeks exploring it. Join me in my journey of self-discovery and exploring the unknown. I had arrived at the capital of Guatemala City, where I headed towards Antigua. I was super tired, but I was also very hungry, so we stopped at a local spot and grabbed some food. We ate some food by the car, and then right after we headed over to our hotels. The roads in Antigua are made out of cobblestone, hence why it's so bumpy on the car, but we ended up staying at a place called Casa Rustica, and if you're looking to stay in Antigua, I would highly recommend it. I woke up early and headed straight toward the terrace where I had the most crazy view in Antigua, where you have a 360 view of the whole place, and where you can see all the volcanoes that surround the city. Here you can see the Volcán de Agua, which means the water volcano. And then right after we headed towards to grab some breakfast at a local spot, which happened to also be an art museum, where we spent most of the morning exploring and admiring the art that it had to offer. Once we finished there, we headed back to Antigua, where we visited a local church and got to see more of the whole city. The views were amazing, and there was so much to do here, but I had to keep it short as I had a huge adventure ahead of me, one which I had no idea what to expect from. We started the day off by meeting up with the whole group at 7 a.m. where we grabbed some breakfast at a local spot. After that, we all hopped on these buses and headed off to an hour trip towards the first meetup spot, where we got to see all the local towns around Antigua. After an hour, we arrived at a local house where we all got ready and made sure that we had everything that we needed for the hike, as there was no going back after this. Soon after, we headed off, and after about 15 minutes we got to the first spot. It was super inclined, and by the time we made it there, I was winded by this point, but at least the views were nice. Throughout the whole hike, we would run into different dogs that would eventually end up joining us all the way through the top. Everyone loved them, and we were all surprised by how fit they all were. Here we have Kate and John taking pictures and getting some drone shots of the place right before we continued with the hike towards the top.
Alright, y'all ready, boys?
Arriba. Yeah, arriba the chocolate. Arriba.
Abajo.
Abajo.
Al centro.
That's something. Sponsored to you by Queen Bee. Queen Bee and Company.
That's some really good honey.
It's actually stupid good. Really good honey. We might do another one.
The group took a little break to catch our breaths, where we took advantage and we ended up taking some honey shots with John and Alex to regain some of our energy back. Right after about 20 minutes, we continued with our hike into the part of the volcano which looked a lot like if we were in the jungle. After that, we arrived at the next rest spot, where I found one of the dogs taking a little nap. What's up, guys? We're over here in the volcano, Atitlan volcano. We're I think at like 10,000 feet right now, so we're pretty high. You can see right behind me. You can see. I'm not too sure which volcanoes those are, but we're right there. And then we got the whole crew, literally over there. I don't know if you can see it back there somewhere. Yeah, so we got this hike. We still got a little bit more to go, but I'm excited to see. Very tough, definitely. Had to be ready. I underestimated the cardio, but here we are. We continued on with our hike and reached our next location, where we ended up having lunch. We all sat in different areas and chatted as we ate our food that was provided for us. Here you see me with John and Darren as we chilled and both got to know each other more. By this point, we were very close to the top of the volcano, and the weather started to get more chilly. I put on my sweater as the wind picked up right before we all hanged out by the fire and warmed up. Here you can see more of the landscape and how it almost looks as if we were in a forest. Next up, we had arrived to the campsite, and unfortunately it was very cloudy, so we couldn't see much of the volcano, but that didn't matter as we were just happy that we had made it. We all hanged out by the dock for a bit, right before John actually dropped his shoe and had to go down and get it. We stayed at campsite for a little bit longer, right before we headed off to the fire volcano. We had arrived to the viewpoint, and unfortunately it was cloudy, so we couldn't really see much, but we made the best out of it and enjoyed each other's presence. Luckily, the weather was a little bipolar, so it would change very quickly, and we got lucky and we got the best view we could have imagined. As I had mentioned before, the weather was very bipolar, and it had changed very, very quickly. We went from enjoying the views to having to go down in almost zero visibility. It almost felt like we were in a National Geographic documentary. At one point, I remember I could barely see anything through my glasses, and I was basically walking blindly. But we did whatever we could, and luckily everybody made it out safe, and we went back down the volcano onto campsite. Once we made it back to the campsite, we heated up some pasta and relaxed by the campfire while we shared stories and enjoyed some marshmallows. I would like to say we got some rest before the next day, but the truth is the lack of oxygen and awkward silence of everyone breathing in the tents made it very hard to get any rest. But by 3 a.m. we were all up and ready to hike to the peak of the volcano. This was arguably the hardest part of the whole hike because of how steep it was, but luckily I didn't give up and we all made it to the top. Now we got unlucky once we got to the top. It was very cloudy so we couldn't see much, but we made the best out of it, and we had some snacks and rehydrated. Right before, by a mere miracle, as we were getting ready to come down, the sky cleared up and we all rushed up to take pictures and enjoy the views. It was an indescribable feeling, and the views were breathtaking. Views that made the struggles all worth it. We even got to see the fire volcano erupt multiple times and enjoy nature's power and beauty. After that, it was time to get back to Antigua. And if you're watching this and wondering whether you should make this hike, take it from me, it is very difficult, but 100% worth it. It's been months since the hike, and I still talk to people from the trip. You get to meet and connect with travelers from all over the world and build friendships that you normally wouldn't. After leaving Antigua, our next destination was Lake Atitlan, which is about a 2.5 hour drive, and in order to get there, you have to go down a steep mountain with many steep turns, one in which you have to watch your speed very careful and drive slow. But just like anything in life, with no risk, there's no reward. And in this case, you are gifted with some of the best views before arriving to San Juan La Laguna, which is one of the 11 towns that surround the lake. From here, we spent the whole day walking around and exploring the small town. Now, the fastest way to travel from town to town here is by boat, so we took a short ride to the neighboring town called Panajachel, where we got some food and enjoyed the amazing views of the lake, right before we headed back home as it was starting to get late and we had a long drive ahead of us. Now, for our next destination, and the final one, it was a very far away, but well worth the drive. You can either choose to fly from the capital or take a road trip just like how we did. If you didn't know by now, Guatemala is filled with ruins from the Maya civilization, and that's exactly where we're headed. But before I show you guys more, even though we didn't spend much time in these places, we have some amazing destinations along the way. The first one was Esquipulas, where we stayed for one night and we enjoyed some delicious food and explored the small town. Here you can see the church, which is surrounded by a beautiful park where we walked around and enjoyed the views, right before we headed off to a sunflower field to take some pictures. By noon, we hit the road again and headed off towards Rio Dulce, where we stayed at a beautiful hotel right by the lake and watched the sunrise. Right down the street from the hotel was a castle that was used by the Spanish for several centuries. It is called the Castillo de San Felipe de Lara, where we spent most of the day exploring it and learning about its history, while also enjoying the views from the lake. Right after, we hit the road again towards our final destination. We had arrived at Flores, where we had dinner at one of the coolest restaurants where we had to take a boat to get there. I unfortunately didn't get many videos on my camera, but my phone did just enough. Apart from the bugs, the views were amazing, and so was the food. The restaurant is called Raíces del Lago. If any of you would like to visit, I would highly recommend it. We ended up staying at a rural ranch where we got to connect with nature and enjoy horseback riding early in the morning. Right after that, we headed off towards Tikal, our final and most amazing destination, one which leaves you breathless. Once you arrive to the park, get ready for some hiking, as the path is pretty long. Make sure you bring some water and sunscreen as it gets pretty hot here. It was around 95 degrees Fahrenheit all throughout the hike, and boy, that sun was hitting. After some very extensive walking, we had arrived. If you have made it to the end of this video, make sure to comment down below what your favorite destination was. I had an amazing time exploring my country and getting to know its beauty. If you're thinking of visiting Guatemala, I would 100% recommend it. The people there are amazing and there's so many places to visit. I still haven't even gotten close to all the destinations it has to offer. I'm definitely going back soon to explore some more, and I hope that you are too. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I have some trips planned for the near future, so stay tuned. Thank you once again. Take care, guys.